Hey, my name is Jim Adkins, and I am excited to be teaching the Sustainable Poultry Workshop Seminar 2 days on September 7th and 8th at Warren Wilson College in Swannanoa, North Carolina, and it's going to be a great time for us. If you are a poultry um, I've always been a bird lover. As far back as I can remember, when I was a kid in Wisconsin, uh, I I always wanted the birds to come to my house. So I had bird baths and bird feeders and bird houses. I wanted all the wild birds coming to my house, and so I loved wild birds. In the middle of my sixth grade year of school, my mom and dad, we moved to Washington State. Dad bought 5 acres. He was so excited about farming. So he bought some baby chicks, some Cornish cross, some Rhode Island Reds, and I still have a scar in the back of my leg from that first rooster. His name was King Tut. He was a terrible bird. I would have never used him for breeding. Anyways, that was my introduction to poultry, and I thought, who needs wild birds when you can have your own? So I started breeding all these different breeds of poultry, got into a great 4-H club. And basically, my love for birds was just fostered over, and it just perpetuated, and my passion and then I got a judging license, and I started judging county fairs and state fairs and 4-H events and FFA events and exhibits and competitions all around North America. I've judged in Australia 5 different times and judged in Canada. And so I just love birds, and getting these old standard breeds back into the marketplace is just a real passion of mine. So that's kind of how it all started. We founded the Sustainable Poultry Network USA in December of 2018 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was speaking at a conference, and some farmers got together, and that's where we birthed the Sustainable Poultry Network. And basically, we hang our hat on 3 nails: training, coaching, and mentoring. So we're training to give people understanding, and then we're coaching them for implementation, and we're mentoring them for multiplication. The whole idea is, more than anything else, is a mentoring program, a coaching program, a training program. So when people are involved in the Sustainable Poultry Network, most of them, the majority of them, have never bred a chicken before. They've never selectively picked a male and a female and put together their own breeding pens. They've always gotten baby chicks from large hatcheries or Tractor Supply. And so what we do is we teach people how to breed their own. So they don't have to go to Tractor Supply. They don't have to go to Murray McMurray Hatchery or Ideal Hatchery and some of these big hatcheries that have just poor quality of baby chicks. And we certify flocks. We have a network. It's a support system, and people are, we're constantly improving the breeds that are in the network. So that's kind of an overview of what we do. We've certified about almost 100 flocks across North America in the last 8 years. So it's been very exciting to see not only the birds drastically improving through breeding, selective breeding, but also to see local farmers, small farmers, get excited and about breeding their own sustainable flock of birds. So it's fun. It's been absolutely fantastic. the difference between standard bred and a heritage poultry. Basically, several years ago, there was a group of people connected to the Livestock Conservancy who got together and wanted to come up with a definition of heritage poultry. And part of that definition, it's stated in a number of different places, but one of the key parts of that definition is it said it had to be a chicken or a turkey or a duck or a goose that where the breed was established prior to 1950. Well, that's fine. That just means it's an old chicken breed or an old turkey breed or an old goose breed or an old duck breed. And the reality is that there are some breeds that we're calling heritage chickens that weren't established pre-1950. For an example, I'll give you two of them. One of them is a Delaware chicken. So a Delaware chicken, it came into, it was recognized as a breed in 1952. So if you go by dates pre-1950, really a Delaware is not a heritage chicken. Another breed that lots of people are familiar with is called an Americana or an Araucana. They're the Easter eggers, the chickens that lay green eggs and blue eggs, and sometimes they're pink and different shades of green. And those birds were not recognized as breeds until the 70s. So we're calling, people are trying to get famous with these heritage chickens. And the reality is that really what a good heritage chicken is a standard bred chicken. Now, what I mean by that is this. Standard bred means that there's a written standard to how you breed that chicken. So, when I talk about standard bred poultry, what I'm referring to is chickens that are in this book. This is the Chicken Bible. It's published by the American Poultry Association. And the American Poultry Association is the oldest livestock organization in North America. And it was established in 1873 in the lovely city of Buffalo, New York. And 1 year later, in 1874, they started publishing the Standard of Perfection. And what's in here is 250 plus different breeds and varieties of chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys. And just recently, we added the lovely guineas into the standard. So here's the key, all right? There are heritage chickens. You can say a heritage chicken is pre-1950. But the thing that's very, very important that people miss is that there are chickens that hatcheries are calling heritage, but they do not they're not represented well based on what the Standard of Perfection says. So if you don't breed it to the standard, it can still be a heritage chicken, but it can be terrible genetics. It cannot, and so if the breeder is not breeding the bird to the standard, then it can be a poor quality bird. So the key, and this is what bugs me, really bugs me, is when people are selling heritage chickens and they don't breed them to the standard. So what happens is a Delaware, or let's use an older breed, like a Buckeye chicken, a Buckeye or a Rhode Island Red, they're breeding them, but they're not breeding them to the standard. And so they're still calling them heritage chickens, but the quality is terrible. So I'm very passionate, and we'll talk about this in a seminar. I don't allude to poultry as heritage poultry. I allude to them as standard bred, because when they're bred to the standard, they're bred to the original state in which they were developed. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the fast growing, I call it fast growing and normal growth. Now the
Yeah.
normal growth is just slower, but basically, um, around in the late 40s and early 50s is when the Cornish cross chicken came on the scene. That's a fast growing broiler. It's a terminal broiler, terminal meat bird. That bird was never ever intended to multiply. It wasn't intended to reproduce. It was intended to grow fast, kill it, and eat it. And it's a terminal bird. And so, and it grows, the average chicken in North America is processed at 36 days of age, which is very, very fast. And you take a normal slow growth, like in the standard of perfection, the bird that grows the fastest is a Delaware chicken, which is ready for the marketplace anywhere between 12 and 14 weeks. Well, that's drastically different than 36 days. And but then there's other breeds. Many breeds in the standard are not ready to be processed until they're about 14 to 16 weeks. Some of them are up even into 20 plus weeks. And so the key with all of that is when the bird is alive longer, it tastes better, it has more nutrition, it has more muscle, has more texture to the meat. It's by far what all of our forefathers and all of our great grandmothers ate. They weren't around when this fast growing broiler that's terminal, and we call them chicken nugget mush, and so that's kind of an overview of the difference between a fast growing chicken versus a normal growth, or a slow growing chicken. So I'm just in the middle of finishing up my book. It's called The Sustainable Poultry Farmer. And basically, in that book, we cover 5 foundational pillars of sustainable poultry production. Pillar number 1 is breeding. Pillar number 2 is growing. Pillar number 3 is feeds and feeding. Pillar number 4 is processing and slaughtering poultry. And the 5th pillar is marketing and ongoing education. So on Friday, September the 7th, I am going to spend 8 hours or whatever the time frame is. I can't remember it exactly, but we'll spend the whole day on Friday going through those 5 pillars. And then on Saturday, it's going to be more hands-on. We're going to take a deeper look at each one of those pillars. And obviously, we're going to have some live birds. We'll do some processing. You'll get a demonstration on processing, and there'll be some more hands-on Saturday. So obviously, the best thing I would encourage you to do is to attend both days if you can. But on Friday, we'll cover the 5 pillars, and on Saturday, we'll take it to the next level and look at the more practical pieces and do some hands-on stuff with chicken. So that's kind of the big picture on what we're going to be doing at the seminar, the Sustainable Poultry Flock. Thank you. I hope you come.